recording. We are good to go. Okay, welcome. Good evening, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Renee Roberts, and I am founder of Nourish to Live RX, and I am a functional nutrition coach and health coach. And I work with men and women over 40 who are struggling with low energy or have trouble sleeping. So I basically help them get back on track with health, quality sleep, getting better energy, and losing weight and maintaining a healthy lifestyle without dieting. So I do that through mindset and habit change. And I'd like to welcome you to my webinar series. Tonight we have guest speaker Jody Hay with us. Thanks for joining us, Jody. Nice to see you. Jody is going to speak to us about midlife and how mindset can affect how we approach the second half of our lives. So Jody is a certified health and life coach who is passionate about helping women over 40 who feel deep down inside that something is missing. So Jody, I won't say much more. I'll let you introduce yourself as well. But welcome for joining us.
And, thanks, Renee, for inviting me on. It's quite a nice opportunity to kind of share, what I've learned and the journey that I personally have been through over the past few years as well. Awesome. And it was even neater when you and I spoke to find out that we have the same kind of clientele in a sense, that we're looking at kind of midlife and, helping people kind of work through some of the issues that midlife can bring to the table. So I'm looking forward to the presentation tonight.
Awesome. I just wanted to say before I pass the mic officially over to you, is that for the attendees that are on Zoom, feel free to ask questions. You can type it into the chat. If you do, just switch the to section at the bottom there to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see what your question is, or you can actually pose a question in the actual Q&A section of Zoom as well. And for those of us on Facebook Live, you're more than welcome to add comments, and I will keep an eye on that through Jody's presentation as well. And I'll bring up any questions that I see so Jody can focus on what she wants to do. So perfect. Go ahead, Jody. I'll let you take it over.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm just going to share my screen here. So let me get the right one for you guys. All right, Renee, can you just let me know if you can see that?
I can.
Perfect. So let me just bring that up. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is quite obviously a passion of ours to, as coaches, we want to be your biggest cheerleaders. And through, what we've learned through our courses and through our education, it not only, I know for me personally, and Renee's probably the same, that there was so much great information learned going through the coaching process that, I felt very strongly that I wanted to share a lot of these things that I did learn. Because I think, back a couple of years ago when I was feeling a little bit uneasy and not sure kind of what I wanted to do, I felt like I had to make a big change. I felt like maybe it's my job and I have to quit my job and get a new job, and everything just seemed huge and it just seemed overwhelming. So as we go through this presentation tonight, you'll learn that that's actually not what you have to do. We don't have to make this huge thing that we're so busy that you can't even make a start on it. So this is about, making a start and just starting to, to listen to what is happening within you as you kind of hit your 40s and 50s and beyond. So my guess is that if you're joining us tonight, you might be in midlife yourself, or that you might know somebody that is. And I have a feeling that a lot of us have heard the term midlife crisis before. I know I have, and it's funny because it's kind of always spoken about in a joking manner that, oh, he's having a midlife crisis, or she's having a midlife crisis. And it's this big, they're switching their whole life and moving across the country or what have you, which I guess is often true. That's, often what people do. But, I'd like to kind of look at it a little differently than that. And as you can see from the title of the webinar, it's, I like to look at it as a midlife awakening. So when you think about your younger years, being a child, being a teenager, and kind of into your early 20s, I know for myself that time seemed infinite. In fact, I never really thought about time. Going through elementary school, it just seemed endless, but not in a bad way. You just felt like you're in school and playing with friends all the time. And then as you got into high school, you just slowly started to think about what you wanted to do. And there was lots of socializing, and you're coming into your own a little bit, going through hormones, kind of thinking about what you wanted to be, when you grow up. And, it's a different period in our life. And, the question at the bottom of the slide there is, we have all the time in the world, right? And then the question as an older adult is, right? Maybe not. Because we're young. You don't necessarily need to think about how much time you have to make kind of big decisions. So as we kind of transition into 20s and 30s, and this is not the standard life for everybody. It's certainly not exactly how my life went. But for the most part, you do spend your 20s, later 20s and 30s. Many of us are focusing on career. We're focusing on building that career. There's relationships that you need to put some time into, and possibly marriage. And then along come the kids, if you have children in your life. So those things, they occupy our brain space, and they occupy our emotional space, in a great way, in a loving way. But what happens is you start moving away from, you might have thought when you were younger that you wanted to be a certain something or do a certain something, but then you get into these loving relationships and having kids and that sort of thing. And so you move on a different path than what you might have thought you would have, in your earlier years. So the days are long, but the years are short. And I think that, those of us who have children certainly understand that. The days are very long, when you have the baby crying, and you're so tired that you can't sleep, actually. And those days seem so long, but all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, you wake up and your children are grown, and it happens so fast. So it's all that kind of, time is very relative. We all know at our age that time is always the same thing. It's standard across the board. It never changes. However, the way that we view time changes as we get older. So generally, during those years, your 20s and your 30s, your focus is going into all of these things that you're building. You're building a life, you're building your relationships, and, looking to buy homes and have kids. And that takes a lot of effort to do those things. So as you do those things, you don't worry so much about, that gut feeling, or this wasn't really the career I wanted, but it's okay. I'm going to go with it. And I think maybe some of you can also relate that certain days, maybe years worth of those days, feel like Groundhog Day. You feel like you're living the same day in and out. You get up, you make the lunches, you get the kids to school, you go to work, you come home, you make dinner. So it's very repetitive. And I think at that point, that's where you start thinking, I didn't know that this was going to be what it's like. I thought there'd be a lot more time. So we move into our 40s, and again, like, not everybody's life is the same. I actually had my son in my 40s, so I haven't yet gone through the empty nest syndrome. It'll be a little bit before I go through that. However, at this age, when I turned 40 and started to get older, there was many things that started to be important to me that never had been before. When I was younger, my parents were younger. When I was younger, they didn't have the health problems that they might have now. And as I see my parents age, the question comes up in my mind as to what about my health? Are these genetic things? Do I need to look after myself better than I have been? And that's emotionally, physically, everything. It's not just like going to the gym to work out. This is your overall health. Is it where you want it to be? And if it's not, at what point are you going to make a change so that you can be healthy into your later years? Some of you are dealing with empty nest. Your kids are a little bit older and maybe they've gone off to school or starting their own families. Retirement, that's looming. And I can't remember the exact number, but I read somewhere that I think they're saying you're supposed to have something like $1.5 million per person for retirement by the time that you retire. That's a big number. So those of us who are not at that big number certainly start thinking about retirement. And so all of these things that we didn't have to think about in our younger years are starting to rear their head and become more important to us. So this is where you can start feeling a little bit of unease. Finances can create unease when you're thinking about retirement or even in the here and now. So there's just a lot of different things that you're thinking about at this time in your life than you were before. And because through, a lot of the decades of your life, your 20s, 30s, 40s, because of the different hats that you took on, a lot of times what happens is these are hats that we willingly wear. All I ever wanted to be was a mom. That's all I ever wanted to be. And I had to fight hard to make that happen. I wear my mom hat with pride, a lot of pride. And to be honest, every hat that you read here, mom, sister, wife, daughter, employee, those are my hats that I wear. That is who I am. Those are the sweaters that I wear. So I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm an employee. Those are just a very few of the different hats that I wear in my life. So this is not a negative connotation, but what it is speaking to is the more that you're taking on in your life, representing something, being labeled as something, the deeper down your true you goes. And what happens is the more hats that you're putting on without focusing anything on that deep down true you, the voice is getting quieter and quieter, and it's getting harder to hear and harder to hear. So what happens then is this feeling of unease. And a lot of us don't know where it's coming from. We think, I kind of have what I thought I wanted, and yet, there's something that's just not sitting right with me right now. So the question is, what is it that's making you uncomfortable? What is it that's giving you that kind of like niggly jiggly feeling in your gut? And you ask yourself, I've got a good partner. I've got a half decent job. I've got, good kids. Yes, they can be challenging, but they're good kids. So I really should be happy. That's what I should be. I should be happy. And what comes of that should is guilt. So we're looking at these different roles that we play, and we're thinking, again, in my own life, I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a partner. I wanted a good job, where I was paid enough to have a good life. And I am so grateful that I have those things. But that doesn't mean that I don't have the right to explore life further, just as you have the right to explore life further. And if this slide doesn't ring true for you, if you don't have a great job or you have difficulty in your relationship, which we all do at some point, they take work. And if you have really challenging kids, because the world is very challenging right now, that's okay too. You can have those challenges and still feel that feeling in your gut that it's not quite those that are causing that feeling. So those things do need to be looked at, and they do need to be worked on. But you also need to listen to that gut feeling that you're feeling, that uneasy kind of jiggly feeling. So what is that uncomfortable feeling in the pit of your stomach? A lot of us feel it. It could be what is making you lose sleep at night because you just can't put your finger on it. You know that something's off. And you keep thinking, well, what am I supposed to do about this? I don't really want to change because I'm comfortable. Life is comfortable. And, you know, and that may be true. But the challenge with that is that the more that you tamp down that kind of unease and niggly feeling, you're going to find that it starts rearing its head more and more and more, because the universe is going to keep trying to teach you the same lesson until you listen to it and until you learn from it. There's a saying that goes, the way that you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So that's a very kind of bland statement. But if you put it together in terms of looking over your lifetime, maybe you've always run from relationships. Maybe you're like me and you jump from job to job to job, or maybe you move because you keep looking for the right thing and you're not going to find it, because all you're doing are you're trying to run from that feeling that's in the pit of your stomach, when in reality what you need to do is to feel it and to look into it and to figure out what is it trying to tell you. So some people call this feeling, and some people feel it in different parts of their body. Usually it's referred to as a gut instinct, a gut feeling. But you can call it what you will. You might have heard people call it intuition. It's your intuition calling to you. You can call it your spirit, your inner spirit. Some people even like to refer to that feeling as the inner child, you know, kind of stomping the feet and trying to get out of this adultness that's happening, you know, without paying attention to that inner child. So there's lots of different names for it, you know, and hopefully, you know, what you understand that feeling that I'm talking about, because I think that's why a lot of you are here tonight, is you have that feeling. So I'm going to refer to it as your intuition. That's what it feels like to me. Is, you know, through the years, what I've learned is that intuition isn't necessarily the easiest thing to listen to, because what it is it's often the hardest choice that you have to make. It's not necessarily, just because it's your intuition, it doesn't mean that it's the easiest choice to follow. But what I can tell you is it's the right choice. It may take a long time to ultimately, but it is trying to tell you something, and you're going to have that feeling of unease and discomfort until you quiet down and listen. So it's saying to you, and again, you can picture it as your inner child going, hey, hello, remember me? We used to have fun, you know, we used to be really cool. We used to have fun. We used to do stuff. The world was fascinating. Everything was fascinating as a kid. And so this feeling is saying to you, will you listen? Are you ready now in your 40s and 50s and beyond to listen to what it's trying to tell you? Maybe it's trying to tell you that you need to find your joy again. I'd love to see your faces, but when was the last time that you felt unrestrained joy? When was the last time that you laughed so hard that you cried? It is very hard. I don't take COVID lightly. It is very hard in this current situation that we're all in to have those moments. But that is why we need to actually look for them. When was the last time that you truly felt at home within yourself? You know, I know for me, I can always recognize the signs because I don't sit down. You know, I'll sit down, then I'll pop back up and go do something, and then I'll sit down again, and then something else will cross my mind and I'll pop up and go do something else. That's a busy mind. And what it is doing is it's keeping me from being quiet enough to listen to the inner voice, to what needs to change, to what needs to happen. So that is what those gut feelings are asking you to listen to. Go on to the next slide here. So the reason that I feel deeply that it's not a crisis that you're feeling is because I truly feel this is an awakening. This is an opportunity for you to recognize that things can change, that you have the right to be happier, to be more joyful, to live your purpose. And that doesn't mean you have to give up everything you love. You know, I started moving down this path a few years ago. I haven't given up my husband. I haven't given up my child. You know, I haven't given up income. What I have done is awaken to the fact that this feeling within me needs to be listened to so that I can rest and so that I can fully come into the person that I was meant to be, instead of living Groundhog Day every day without meaning. That's the problem with Groundhog Day, is it feels like there's no meaning in those days. You're just running on empty, and you're running on automation without thinking. So it's not a crisis if you can see this as an opportunity. If you don't resonate with the word, if awakening doesn't resonate with you, maybe opportunity does. It's a midlife opportunity. And it's a good thing that you're feeling that in your body, because it's the first step towards listening to it. What it's saying is that you can awaken to more. You don't have to sit back and let life pass you by. You don't have to sit back and let life happen to you. That's the good news. So when I talked about the hats, that the more you put on without ever wearing your own hat, without ever wearing your own persona, and without ever working on your own stuff, you're always taking too much time working on making everyone else happy and comfortable and, you know, okay. You're tamping down the true you, the real you. So I love that you're here, because it means you are ready to go mining. You're going to dig up some gold here. You're going to discover things about yourself that you might not have even known that you wanted to feel or do or be. And they might be different than when you're younger, because we grow and we evolve over time, you know, through the people we meet and the experiences that we have. So if you're struggling to understand how you go digging, what, you know, it's easy for me to say to you, start listening to that intuition and start digging into it a little bit. What does that mean? There's a few ways that I can speak from my experience that worked for me. You know, getting quiet is very important. Having time and space where there's quietness is ultimately the most important thing. And within those quiet spaces, you can take the opportunity to do things like meditation. I was really intimidated by meditation. I pictured, you know, sitting, you know, cross-legged on the floor and being very uncomfortable. And, you know, I just thought there's no way I can do an hour of sitting here and attempting to get into my own brain. There's no way that's going to happen. And then somebody introduced me to the app called Calm. I'd be curious to know, you can even say in the comments how many of you have a meditation app. There's a few of them. I forget the name of them all, but I have Calm. And the amazing thing about this is they're 10 minutes. They're on average 10 to 12-minute meditations. And it's amazing because I can do 10 to 12 minutes of sitting and being calm. So it's taken me a bit of practice to get into those, because what I find myself doing as I'm listening to these meditations is my mind wanders. But the good thing about doing meditation repeatedly and doing these short little 10-minute meditations is it's like practice. It's like anything else. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So for me, I've found a lot of value in these short meditations. So that's one thing that you can try. Yoga is another kind of, it depends, there's different types of yoga, but yoga is another like quiet, easy movement. And a lot of us haven't moved our bodies like that before. We always have a purpose to be moving, like we're going from the car to the school to the job or what have you. But yoga is being present in the moment and stretching your body in ways that you probably didn't know you could stretch them, or in my case, you probably shouldn't have tried it. But it's quieting your body and your mind, and that opens space up for you to listen to these thoughts and feelings that you have. Another way that you can go mining for your inner self is nature. If you often feel unbalanced, you know, a lot of the time, if you think about the last time that you were out in nature, it could have been probably quite some time ago. Nature has a way of balancing us without us having to do much more than to just get into nature. You don't even have to hike. You don't have to do something that's super physical if you're not prepared to do that. Go out into a forest and sit on a rock or sit on a log and be quiet. No headphones. Listen to the birds. You know, if you go out in the different seasons, go to the exact same place in different seasons and see how amazing it is, how much it changes. It doesn't even look like the same place from season to season. It's magical. So go out into nature. If it's warm enough, go out in bare feet on the grass. You know, like that just reminds me of being a kid. Go play in the sprinkler this summer. Do these things that bring you back to nature, because there's so many healing properties to doing that. Water, a lot of us are very drawn to water. I know my mom and I both are. Hi, Mom. I think you're on. I think you're listening right now. So yeah, so water and nature, you know, can kind of help quiet the mind so that you can start listening. And music. I know a lot of you probably really relate to music. And when you're in a certain mood, certain songs come back. Or if you hear a song from your childhood or a certain period in your life, boy, can it really bring you back right to that moment. So music can be a big one for you. That can be a sort of meditation if you're not ready for the more quiet type of meditation. Another one that's worked for me is just speaking with a really good friend, somebody who's known me for years and who I can say anything and everything to, and there's zero judgment. If you have a friend like that, tell them how much you love them, because they are golden. We need friends like that. It is so important to have connections, deep connections with other people. COVID has made that hard, but thank God for technology. We can call, we can Zoom, you know, we can walk on opposite sides of the street. But yeah, you can connect with friends. And then finally, journaling. Some people, I write very easily. That's kind of, you know, that's kind of what I can do. I'll call that my art. I can write easily. I'm terrible at art where you can paint and that sort of thing, but I take pride in my journaling because it just flows. And for those of you who struggle with it flowing, there's actual, you can get journals that have prompts that ask you specific questions. And again, you might find that during that, you will write things that you didn't even know were rambling around in your head. So it can be a very therapeutic experience to do that. So here we go on to this little exercise that anyone who joined before Tuesday would have received this from Renee in an email. So this is called the Wheel of Life. So what this Wheel of Life helps us do is to kind of pin down some of the areas in our life that maybe need a little loving attention. It needs some TLC if it's important to you. Some of these things may not even resonate with you, and that's fine. Don't even worry if they're a 0 from, 1 to 10, maybe they're a 0 and you don't care. That's fine. For those of you who had time to print this off, I invite you to now take a look at that. And what you're going to do is you can see each spoke on the wheel has a word. So for example, joy. If you are very joyful, you have lots of joy in your life, things are going really well for you in that case, you're going to put, your dot, you're going to make a dot at the far outer part of the circle. If you have very little joy in your life, you're going to come towards the center of the wheel. So it's like a 1 to 10 kind of scale. You're just going to put a dot. Social life, if it's, really great social life, then you're going to put it out towards the outside of the circle. If it's not such great social life, which, a lot of us are going through right now, you're going to come down towards the middle of the circle where the blue dot is in the middle. I invite you to kind of think about your social life before COVID. Because this, this past year and a bit hasn't been typical, I think, of our regular lives. So if you can kind of put yourself in the space of, your regular life, or if COVID is really gotten you in a really tough place mentally and emotionally, feel free to do it where you're at right now. So I'm going to give you some time to fill that out. Now, Renee has put, for those of you who didn't have a chance to print this, Renee has put the link in the chat so that you can at least look at it in the chat there. You can bring it up, the link to it. And what you can do instead of the wheel is just write the word down. Just write joy and rate it at 1 to 10, right? Social life, put it from 1 to 10. You won't have that same visual of the actual wheel, but it'll still give you a good idea of what parts of your life might need a little bit of attention. So I'll invite you guys to go ahead and do that. If I can figure it out, I'm going to share, just some soft music in the background while you do that. And I'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes if you're able to complete that, and then we'll come back to it. So go ahead with that, and I will see if I can just get some nice music on in the background for you here. Here we go. Sorry about that, guys.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time? And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows, only
All right, you guys, let me just get my screen back up here. Hopefully that gave you enough time to fill that out. There we go. Okay, if you need some more time, feel free to work on this. If you want to think a little bit deeper about that, then feel free to take some more time after the call, after the webinar, to go through that. Now, Renee was kind enough to offer earlier to me, you know, kind of her wheel of life results. Renee, are you able to share that like on the screen, or did you just want to speak about it?
I will just speak about it.
Okay, sounds good.
I have done this, this wheel of life. This is one of the things that we learn. Jody and I went to the same school. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about my wheel of life a few years ago to make it easy. And because I think it resonates with a lot of what you said tonight.
Awesome. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So if I was to do this wheel, and I've done this wheel with clients before, and it's gotten great results. It's a really, really good tool.
It is.
And especially when you can put the dots, because you can really see your wheel you'd like to have it like a wheel, but sometimes it's all flat on one
It's
side.
a little askew.
Yeah. But you know, I've always had like creativity, my dots would be way out. Spirituality, my dot is closer to the center, but I'm not a spiritual person. So I'm okay with that. But maybe that would be out because I'm okay with the way it is. It's not that I have an issue with it. Joy was kind of in the middle. Social life, towards the edge. I did pretty well with that. Relationships, that would have been probably towards the center a little bit more a few years ago. Same with my home environment. That would have been closer to the center. Health would have been further out to the outside of the wheel. Physical activity, again, to the outside of the wheel. Home cooking to the outside. Education to the outside of the wheel. Career would have been center. Finances would have been probably towards the outside of the wheel. So when I looked at that wheel, the one thing that really stood out for me, there were a lot of things close to the center, but the one thing that really, really resonated was that career was so close to the center. And that to me, you know, says, okay, I had a great job or have a great job. I was making great money, but I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
So I wasn't happy with my career. I wasn't just happy going to work. So I knew something had to change. And that's how I pivoted my career into what I'm doing now, health and functional nutrition. I used to be a technology consultant in the big banks. And yeah, and I don't look back. Do I have, since I've made that change, finances? Yeah, they moved to the center because
they slid a little bit.
Well, of course, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in my first year of business. I'm in the red. But it's a risk. It's a thing you take when you become an entrepreneur. So yeah. I'm okay with that. Creativity went out, spirituality went out, joy definitely went out farther. So just pivoting one little things really, really resonated.
Impacted a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So
awesome.
I don't regret the decision I made back, a few years ago to do this and put investment in me.
Well, and I think sometimes because we have these feelings of unease, but you're not quite sure, like there may be multiple things that feel a bit off, but when you see it in black and white like this, it's easier you can't focus on everything at once. It's easier to pinpoint and maybe pick one to start working towards making it better if it's an important one to you. Because again, some of these things, like as you said, spirituality doesn't resonate with you, so it doesn't matter kind of where it falls on the wheel for you. I have to apologize, you guys. I look very green because I have the big screen beside me here, so I'm nicely lit up by my by my screen over here. So I'm not as definitely looking as what I look like on the screen right now. But yeah, I have the big Wheel of Life screen here. And, as I said, when you have it in black and white, if it's very important to you, maybe that's where you start. Because I think in a lot of things in life, we don't know where to start. You don't know how to start. You don't know where to start. So this is a great opportunity to find out where you might be able to start. Thank you for sharing that, Renee. I really appreciate that. So yeah, if any of you have any questions, about your results for the Wheel of Life, or if you have any difficulty understanding the Wheel of Life, the one that Renee sent out to you, it does have, once you finish it, it has some questions afterwards that help you be a little bit more introspective. It helps you kind of go a little bit deeper to figure out and decide what you do want to work on. And, as we were saying, if that wheel, if it's not quite so round and it's very askew, if you have some really highs and lows in there, just the fact that your life is that out of balance could be what's causing so much stress. For Renee's case, and actually in my case too, career, you spend so many hours of your life in a career or in your job, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or whether you're in corporate, or whether you're like Renee and I are and going down the entrepreneurial path. A huge chunk of our life, in our adulthood is taken up with career and what you are and what you do. So if that is not rating at least half to higher for you, that could be something that you need to look at. Same with relationships. If that's rating way down at a 2, that should be looked at for sure, or worked on. It doesn't mean you have to kick your partner to the curb. It may just mean maybe you need to actually open up communications a little bit so that you can both get back to, what you were when you started, sort of thing. So yeah, so if anyone has any questions, about their Wheel of Life, if you need any help, understanding it or going through it, then feel free to reach out to either Renee or myself, because this is part of what we did at the school. We weren't in the same cohort, so to speak, but we went to the same school, and we both speak very highly of it and of what we learned.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to go back to that, Renee?
Yeah, one of we did get a question. We're getting a couple questions. I don't know if we would rather wait until the end, but
sure.
Tina had asked, how would you start if your life changed due to an accident? How would you look at
a physical accident? Yes. Something that's causing physical issues?
Yes.
Yeah, when you have a physical accident, there's a lot of trauma, and it's not just physical. There's a lot of emotional and mental trauma. And I speak from experience. I've been banged around a little bit. Fear. And you said it was Tina?
Yes.
Tina, I think probably, I don't know your story, but I have a feeling that there is some very deep-seated fear about going forward in life in general, because you've learned very suddenly that you can be hurt with no prior warning or reason. So I think a lot of healing from an accident has to start with, obviously you need to take care of the physical part of it. You need to be seen to for the physical part of it. But what people forget when somebody's had some sort of traumatic accident, or even if it's not super traumatic, but you have been damaged or hurt, that there's a very deep emotional scar that happens. So, what that can mean, and if you don't speak to the emotional part of an accident, if you don't also kind of work on that, it actually is very hard for you to heal the physical results of that accident. So when you talk about rehab and that sort of thing, rehab for or physiotherapy or chiropractic, when you think about that kind of rehab for your physical body, also think about that kind of rehab for your emotional and your mental mind as well. So I would start with, if you're not comfortable speaking with somebody, I would start with journaling, getting some of those feelings out. When you lock stuff inside, it festers, and that will 100% affect your physical body in a very negative way. So Start with baby steps, Tina. If you're not willing to, or not, it's not that you're not willing to, if you're not ready to speak to somebody about the trauma, then just start with something that you feel comfortable doing, which is I call them baby steps. It's the way I started with everything. Baby steps, just taking one step forward in the right direction. So start with some journaling. And something that I believe heavily in coaches. I've had coaches in the past. I have a coach now. Something that they taught me is get it out. They invited me to kind of like, hit a pillow and scream and punch into a pillow and that sort of thing. And I that's not me. I wasn't comfortable. I don't think you're supposed to be comfortable doing that, but I wasn't able to do that. What I did do is I wrote everything. I wrote anger down. I took a whole page. I've got a notebook here. I literally wrote an entire page of what makes me angry. And it only took me about 5 minutes. I just powered through it. So if you're able to do something like that, Tina, and get it out so it's not festering inside, because you must be so angry if this happened to you. And I'm sorry that this has happened to you. I hope that helps a little bit. We can go on to the next one there, Renee.
Okay, thank you. Now that was the only question Sandra had asked where we studied, so I answered that for us.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So HCI, yeah, the Health Coach Institute. Yeah. And they have both like a health coaching portion and a life coaching portion. So anybody thinking of going down this road, 100% recommend that school.
Yeah, it's a
100%.
Yeah.
Amazing experience. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to go on to the next slide here. We're going to finish up soon. I know that this is, a bit of a longer webinar for you guys. So I want to invite you to ask yourself some questions, because these can just open up your mind to possibilities that you don't think about when you're so busy in your life, when you're hauling the kids around or doing this, that, and the other thing. These are the questions that you don't give yourself time to sit down and think about. So what if, instead of feeling like you're in a crisis, you see this as an opportunity? You see this as the first step. Attending this webinar is the first step. What's your next little step? You dream big. What if you dream big and you take tiny steps every single day towards that dream? Because do you know what, you guys? Time's going to pass regardless. If you don't take those steps, time's still going to pass. So if you take baby steps, not only are they going to give you satisfaction and motivation and feel good feelings because you're working towards something, if you don't do that, time is going to go on anyways, and you're probably going to end up feeling worse about yourself, because when you want something and you don't take any steps to get towards it, you can feel bad about yourself, which is sad but true. Here's a big one for me. What if you ask yourself, if in 6 months you are exactly where you are now, will you be happy? I asked myself that question at the beginning of 2019, and my answer, I didn't even wobble on the answer. It was a hard no, very hard no. I saw that question. I think it was on LinkedIn. Somebody had posted on LinkedIn and said, if you are exactly where you are right now, if in 6 months you're right here where you are now, will you be happy? And my answer was no. And that is what started me on the path to going into coaching. It took a while. This is not something that happens overnight. But I invite all of you who are attending this to ask yourself that question. The answer might surprise you. What if you told guilt to get lost and realize that you're actually allowed to want more? I give you all permission to want more. You need to give yourself permission to want more. Even if your life is good, you are allowed to want more. You are allowed to find the true you and live the life of your dreams. You're allowed to have that. What if you realized that your happiness has a ripple effect? This is all about you. Don't get me wrong. This is all about you. That's why you're all here. This is about that voice within you. But the good news is, as you work towards finding yourself and happiness and being fulfilled, it has a ripple effect. Your relationships will improve. You'll find that your home life and your kids, everything is going to improve, because if you're happier, everybody's going to notice it. You're going to walk differently. You're going to walk straighter and taller. You're going to have a smile on your face. You're going to look inviting. People are going to want to speak to you, because when life's not going good, I can tell you, your body language and your face show it. So just remember, your happiness has a ripple effect. It's just like that whole, pay it forward thing. If you buy somebody a coffee, in the car behind you at Timmy's, that's going to be a ripple effect. You feel good because you did it. They feel good because they just got a free coffee. They might even buy somebody else a free coffee just to prolong the feeling. So happiness has the same effect. What if you say no to the things that don't sit right in your gut? I think, oftentimes as women, we say yes to stuff. We really shouldn't. And it just makes us busier and crazier. What if you say yes to new adventures? Yes, it might make you uncomfortable. New adventures can do that, but it's for a reason. You have to get out of your comfort zone to grow. So what if you say yes to new adventures? Your immediate first reaction might be, no, I'd never do that. What if you said yes? What could happen if you said yes to that? What if you say yes to you? Not everybody else. Not worrying about the kids and the husband and the dog and, school and work and everything else. But what if you said yes to you? What if you said, you know what, I really want to have a bath tonight in complete silence? Make it happen. Say yes to you. Make it clear to everybody else that's what you need. Find your voice and ask for what you want. If nobody knows what you want, you're not going to get it. You need to ask for what you want. You need to ask yourself for what you want. And I love this little picture, because there you are. You just looked in the mirror and there you are. You're in there. You can find her or him, if there's some men on this call tonight. You just need to actually do the work. So as we get to the end here, I just want to ask you, what lights you up? What makes you happy? And if you don't immediately know the answer to that, that's okay, because it just means that you haven't had a lot of happiness in your life lately, which, again, there's a lot of reasons for that right now. Think about what lights you up and do that. Whatever it is, do that. If you love snuggling puppies, do it. If you love snuggling babies, wait until COVID's over and do it. If you like the forest, go to the forest, go to nature. If you like laughing, this is one of my all-time favorite pictures up here of the lady laughing, because that lady is my mom. And that picture brings me joy. So that laughter brings me joy. Laughing with my mom brings me joy. Mom, I love you. That picture is fantastic. So there you go, you guys. Thank you for sticking this out with me. It did go a little bit longer than I expected, but I hope you found value in joining us tonight. If you would like a complimentary assessment of your Wheel of Life, give me a call or get in touch. And Renee is familiar with the Wheel of Life as well. So reach out to us. We're here to help. There's lots of different ways that you can contact me at the bottom of that slide there. And Renee, are you sending out, you have a recorded replay of this, do you?
Yes, I will send out. I usually send it out the next day. Yeah, to all the
Awesome.
all the people who registered. Yes.
Okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, I know a couple of people who registered couldn't make it tonight, so that's awesome if you can send that out.
Yep.
And I'll be in touch as well, and can share with you how you can work with me if you're curious at all, or if you want to have that private little assessment of your Wheel of Life, then I would gladly do that. That's complimentary.
So I don't know if anybody has any questions. You're more than welcome to put them in the chat or the Q&A box. I'm just looking at the Q&A box now. Tina had mentioned earlier how she deals with grievances. She meditates and hands it over to the universe and waits for an answer, and usually that helps her. So
fantastic. Yes, it makes a big, big difference. Again, if you've never done it before, it takes practice. It won't happen, in your it might happen in your first session, but yeah, fantastic, Tina. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody has anything else. We got a few thank yous, and seems like people enjoyed the presentation.
That's great.
But if anybody has anything, if you're thinking, I'm just going to put a few things in the chat right now. Just so people have it. Some of my links, in case anything happens, you can get, I will send out an email Well, why is it not copying properly? Let's see.
I'm just looking for the chat here. I don't see it coming up.
Okay, that's kind of weird. It's not letting me copy for some reason, which is very bizarre. There is a question that came through. Any suggestion to start being active?
Yes. Try not to overthink it. I think we are given this message that you have to join a gym and you have to go hard. Yeah, no pain, no gain. I don't subscribe to that. I think I think you need to think about what you enjoy doing and do that. So movement, you don't have to exercise to get movement. Just do something that makes you happy. So when I suggested even going into nature, just walking, one of the best things I've ever done for myself, anytime that I'm starting to feel unhealthy physically, is I just start walking. But I do it somewhere that makes me happy. So I usually go to the forest or near water or something along that line. But if that's not your thing, then just find something that makes you happy, or maybe not happy at the beginning, but something that you can do easily. Do not sign yourself up for a gym if that is not your scene. I've done that so many times and I've wasted so much money. Keep telling myself I have to join a gym, and I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy group classes. I enjoy kayaking, and because I enjoy it, I don't see it as exercise, and yet I get really fit doing it. Yeah. So yeah, just start with the baby steps. Think about what you actually enjoy doing and do that. Small steps, like I start on the treadmill, or not the treadmill, the rowing machine that we have in the room behind me here. 5 minutes. That's what I do. 5 minutes. That's all I do. Because what happens is after doing 5 minutes, a couple of weeks, I bump it up to 10 because I'm like, oh, I'm actually getting fit. So it can happen with baby steps. So good luck. Yeah.
I do that. I do wall sits every so often. Like if I just need to do something that's not cardio, I'll just do a wall sit for a minute. And it's like, it takes time. It takes some strength to do it, but it's something that you don't need anything for, and you can find a wall anywhere.
And you can find a minute.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Baby steps. It's all about baby steps, you guys, for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. I don't see anything else coming through. I was able to finally paste the links in. I just wanted to do a quick thank you, actually, for joining us tonight. It was a really great presentation.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. I really resonated with it too. And so, I love this. I love what you said towards the beginning, is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. It's so, so true.
It can be a harsh lesson, Renee, when you learn that, when you start to put it together. That's a biggie. Yep. How you approach one thing. Yes, it's a biggie.
Yeah. So, one thing I just wanted to mention to everybody is that the next webinar will be in 2 weeks. And I think it's at 7:30 again, April 14th. And I will have a guest speaker again who will teach us 6 ways to go from stuck to unstoppable. So I put the registration link for that. Like I said, I'll send out an email with the past event with this replay, but you can access all the past event replays on my website, which I posted as well. I think we have another question. Suggestions for a binge eater.
Oh, there's so many suggestions. Yeah. A lot of what we learned, is this Sandra that had asked this? I can see this one. Okay. So yeah, a lot of what Renee and I learned, Sandra, it does have to do with food. I think that's maybe something we need to take offline, Renee. So Sandra, why don't we agree for you to get in touch with Renee or I or both of us, and we can share with you what we learned. There's some really good stuff.
There's quite a few tools that you can use for sure. Awesome. I think that is it. Sandra says thank you. So
you're welcome.
It is exactly 8:30. So if there are no other questions, I will wrap this up. And again, thank you so much, Jody.
You are very welcome. Yeah, that was awesome. And thank you to everybody who joined. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Good night, everyone. Have a
Good
great
night.
evening.
Bye,
Yeah.
guys.
All right. Bye.